Good day everyone, welcome to the second part of Learning from Others. For this particular video, we shall be discussing about making proper citations. Before anything else, we're going to answer the question, what is a citation? A citation is a quotation from or reference to a book, paper, or author, especially in a scholarly work. It is also the way a researcher informs readers that certain material in his or her work came from another source. Now, the basic contents of a citation are the following. First, it contains information about the author. Second, the title of the work. This is followed by the name and location of the company that published the source, as well as the page numbers of the material where the information is taken. And lastly, the date of the publication. Now that we know what a citation is, it's time for us to discuss the reasons why we should make a citation. One of the main reasons why citations are made is to give credit to the original author or source of information that a researcher uses in his or her study. In simple terms, a citation is made in order to avoid plagiarism. Other reasons include, of course, to help other researchers who want to find out more about your ideas and where they came from. Citing sources in our research would allow aspiring researchers to be able to identify and gain access to the different sources that we have used in our study for them to use it in their own research. Also, citing sources shows the amount of research done by a researcher in the process of conducting the study. Furthermore, making a citation strengthens your work by lending outside support to the ideas presented. Remember that whenever we make a citation, we are always explaining or showing that the ideas that we present are not solely ours. It is further supported by the ideas of other researchers who have conducted a similar study. And lastly, it gives credibility to the literature review as the study is supported by other sources. Now at this point, we shall talk about the benefits of making citations. Now, a researcher must always bear in mind that whenever he or she makes citations, the benefits are always threefold in that it benefits the researcher himself or herself, the readers who would read the research, and of course, the ethics in terms of the concerns with regard to conducting the research itself. In terms of the benefits for the researcher, of course, making citations allows you to add authority to your argument. And of course, to add credibility to information that you have presented in the paper. Remember that whenever we make citations, we are always presenting the ideas that are supported by ideas presented by the researchers in their own studies. For the readers, citations helps them understand the context of your work. Also, it allows the readers to track down or validate your research whether the information that you have presented are reliable or indeed true. And for ethics, of course, making citations establishes intellectual integrity. It shows that you as a researcher have conducted your research in looking for information which are relevant to your chosen study. It also aims to distinguish your own ideas and the ideas presented by other researchers. And lastly, making citations helps avoid intellectual property issues. Remember that in research, it is okay to borrow information or ideas from other sources as long as it is properly cited or properly recognized in your research. Now that we are familiar with what a citation is, as well as the reasons why we should make citations and the benefits of making citations, we now focus on answering the question, when do we make citations? Now, it is worth noting that as researchers, we should always make citations whenever we use quotations, whenever we paraphrase, whenever we use an idea that someone else has already expressed, and of course, whenever we make a specific reference to the work of another. In other words, Whenever we include information that we borrow from other sources, regardless of how we include it in the discussion, we must always make the necessary citations. This is to recognize that the ideas that we present are not solely ours and that we are integrating our ideas with the ideas presented by the researchers of other studies. Now at this point, we shall talk about the different citation styles. There are three major citation styles. First, we have the American Psychological Association, or APA, followed by the Modern Language Association, or MLA, followed by the Chicago Manual of Style, or also known as CMS. In terms of the differences, in APA, it refers to the rules and conventions that are established by the American Psychological Association. For Modern Language Association, it uses a simple two-part parenthetical documentation system for citing sources. And for CMS, it uses two citation formats: the author date reference format and the standard bibliographic format. In the CMS, it allows writers to credit their sources through footnote and endnote citations. Furthermore, in American Psychological Association, it requires both in-text citation and a reference list. Now, it is worth noting that in the APA, it is important that each information included in the in-text citation should appear in the reference list and vice versa. In MLA, in-text citations are summarized as work cited at the end of the paper. And in CMS, instead of references or work cited, the Chicago Manual of Style uses the term bibliography to list the sources used. And lastly, in American Psychological Association, it is used in psychology, social sciences, and natural sciences, while the Modern Language Association is used in language research and literature studies. And Chicago Manual of Style is used in humanities like philosophy and theology. Now, while we have different citation styles, one of the most commonly used citation styles is the American Psychological Association, or APA. Now at this point, we are going to talk about how to make citations, specifically in the reference list. Here are the basics of making a reference list. First off, we have to invert the author's names. We have to write the last name first, followed by the initials. Next, we have to alphabetize the reference list entries by the last name of the first author of each work. This would allow proper organization and sorting of the sources that we have. And of course, we have to capitalize only the first letter of the first word of a title and subtitle, the first word after a colon or a dash in the title, and proper nouns. Now when writing an entry, a reference entry for books, here's the most basic format. We have to take note of the following order. We have who, which refers to the author, when, which refers to the publication date, what would refer to the title of the source material, and where, that would refer to the publisher and the address. The most basic pattern would be the author, period, followed by the year of publication and closed in parentheses, period, the title of the work, period, the location where the book was published, colon, and the publisher itself. Just like this example here. For news articles, we pretty much follow the same format. We still have the authors first. However, for the date, we have to be very specific. Remember that newspapers are published on a regular basis. As such, we have to be very clear and specific as to the date of the publication of the article that we are using. We have the year of publication, followed by the exact date when the article was published. This is then followed by the title of the article, followed by the name or the title of the newspaper, and the pages where it can be found. For articles taken from magazines, we have the same format. We have the authors, or author, followed by the year published, the title of the article, the name of the magazine, the volume number, as well as the pages where the article is found. Now, in case we are going to cite an article from an online periodical, we have to take note if there is a DOI assigned. Remember, the DOI, or the Digital Object Identifier, is a reference number assigned to an online periodical content. We have to take note that each DOI is unique, as it would refer to a specific online periodical content. It would still have the same pattern, in which there would still be the author, the date of publication, the title of the article, as well as the title of the journal where it is found, the volume number, and the page range where it can be found, as well as the unique DOI of the online content. Now, in case we're going to refer to online encyclopedias or dictionaries for definitions of words or terms, we have to remember that often encyclopedias and dictionaries do not provide bylines. When we say bylines, it refers to authors' names. When no byline is present, we simply move the entry name to the front of the citation. After that, we have to provide the publication date if there is any, or simply specify ND to indicate that no date is present in the entry. For example, if we're going to use Encyclopedia Britannica Online to define feminism, we have the word feminism here as our entry, followed by ND, signaling that there is no date in the entry, followed by, of course, the name of the source where we have taken the definition, which is Encyclopedia Britannica Online. Now, since this is an online encyclopedia, we're going to use the term retrieved from, followed by the exact URL to indicate that this has been taken from an online reference material or an online encyclopedia. Now, in case we're going to use an information which is taken from a web page, a web document, or a report, remember that we have to list as much of the following information as possible. Again, we say as much of the following information as possible because not all information are available in all web pages or all web documents. Again, try to get as much information as possible. We still have the following, as in the author, followed by the date of publication, the title of the document, and where it is retrieved. At this point, we are still talking about making citations. However, we'll be talking about in-text citations. Now, when using the APA format, we have to follow the author date method of in-text citation. This means that the author's last name and the year of publication for the source should appear in the text. For example, we have Jones in 1998. Now, it is important to remember that one complete reference for each source should appear in the reference list at the end of the paper. This is for the purposes of verifying any information that we have included in our discussion and to determine whether the information that we have put there are properly cited. Now, furthermore, if you are referring to an idea from another work but not directly quoting the material or making reference to an entire book, article, or other work, you only have to make reference to the author and year of publication and not the page number in your text reference. On the other hand, if you are directly quoting or borrowing from another work, you should include the page number at the end of the parenthetical citation. When we say parenthetical citation, this is an example of an in-text citation which is placed at the end of the text that we have borrowed. It's called parenthetical citation because it's placed inside parentheses. Now, when making citations or in-text citations, it is important to remember that there are two ways that we could have in-text citations. The first one is the actual in-text citation, wherein we include the details of the author as well as the year of publication inside the discussion itself as part of the text. Whereas the other one is what we would call a parenthetical citation, wherein we include the details of the author as well as the year of publication inside parentheses, which are then placed at the end of the text. Also, the way that we are going to use these patterns would depend on the number of authors that we are going to cite. If we are going to cite one author, for in-text citations, it would simply follow this pattern. We have the author, followed by the date and closed in parentheses. For parenthetical citations, we're still going to have the same format, except that we are going to include everything inside parentheses, separated by a comma. In case that we are going to cite two authors, we're going to follow the pattern wherein we indicate author 1 and author 2, followed by the date and the idea. For parenthetical citations, we're going to follow the same format. However, instead of using the word "and", we are going to replace it with the ampersand. In case we are going to cite 3 or more authors, there would be multiple instances. The first instance is we are going to cite everything or everyone in the actual citation. We have author 1, author 2, author 3, so on and so forth, followed by the date. For parenthetical citations, it would still be the same. However, instead of using the word "and", we are going to have the ampersand. Now, for succeeding instances, we are simply going to replace the other names of the other authors with the term "et al", followed by the date and the idea that we are going to discuss. For parenthetical citations, it would be the same format. We have author number 1, followed by the term "et al" and the year or the date of publication. Now, still with in-text citations, in case that we're going to cite multiple authors with the same last name, in order to avoid confusion, we must include the first initials with the last name. For in-text citation, it's going to look like this, wherein we are going to include the initials of the first name, followed of course by the year. And for in-text citations or parenthetical citations, it would still have the same format. In case we are going to have indirect sources, remember that indirect sources means that we are citing an idea that our source has cited or taken from another source material. If you use a source that was cited in another source, we have to name the original source in your signal phrase. This is then followed by listing the secondary source in your reference list and including the secondary source in the parentheses. An example would be like this. For in-text citation, we have this idea. So the original source would be Cruz. And the secondary source, which means our source material, is Sanchez. For parenthetical citations, it would look like this. Same thing, Cruz, as well as Sanchez as our secondary source. Take note that we have also included the page number as proof that it has been taken from a specific page in the source material. Also, if you know the year of the original source, it is important to include it in the original or in the citation itself. Now, still about in-text citations, remember that in-text citations are usually headed by signal or introductory phrases such as according to, and discussed that, and proposed in his study, and argued that, and mentioned in his paper that. Moreover, this idea is supported by the concept of "and", which states that. In other words, the use of signal or introductory phrases is for the main purpose of proper transition and introduction of an idea that we are going to discuss in our paper. This is to avoid any confusions should we jump from one idea to another, or if we are going to support one idea with another idea taken from another source. Now at this point, we are going to show examples on how to make in-text citations, starting with short quotations. Remember that short quotations are exact quotations that we take from the source material that we are using as a reference. Whenever we are going to include short quotations in our discussions, we can introduce the quotation with the signal phrase that includes the author's last name, followed by the date of publication in the parentheses. Let's look at this example here. We have the introductory phrase or signal phrase according to, followed by the last name of the author and the date of the publication in the parentheses. This is then followed by the exact quotation, which states that students often had difficulty using the APA style, especially when it was their first time, end quote. If we are going to observe, we also indicated the page number here to signal that this particular quotation is taken from this page number from that particular source material. Now, another way of citing sources for short quotations is like this. If you do not include the author's name in the text of the sentence, place the author's last name, the year of publication, and the page number in the parentheses after the quotation. If we're going to do it like this, it's going to make it a parenthetical citation. Take this for example. She stated that students often had difficulty using APA style, end quote. Since we do not include the name of the author, we're simply going to include it inside the parentheses after the quotation, as well as the date and page number. Now we're going to talk about long quotations. Long quotations are quotations which are composed of 40 words or more. If we are going to include long quotations in our discussions, we have to place them in a freestanding block of typewritten lines and omit the quotation marks. We start the quotation on the new line, which is indented half an inch from the left margin, in the same manner where we would begin a new paragraph. For reference, we could take a look at this one. This is the actual discussion, wherein we have the signal phrase here, followed by the exact quotation. Note that we are also going to include the page number to indicate that this particular quotation has been taken from this specific page number from this specific source material. In case we are going to include quotations from sources without pages, it is important to remember this. Direct quotations from sources that do not contain pages should not reference a page number. Instead, you may reference another logical identifying element. It could be a paragraph, a chapter number, a section number, a table number, or something else. This is for the purpose of helping the readers be able to identify and determine where exactly the quotation is located. This is also for the purpose of helping them verify whether any information that we have included are indeed existing. Let's look at this example here. Jones in 1998 found a variety of causes for student dissatisfaction with prevailing citation practices. In lieu of the page number, we are indicating the paragraph number where the quotation or ideas can be found. Now, in case we're going to include a summary or a paraphrase of an idea that we have taken from another source, always remember this. If you are paraphrasing an idea from another work, you only have to make reference to the author and year of publication in your in-text reference, and you may omit the page numbers. Example, according to Jones in 1998, we still have the author and year of publication. The APA style is difficult citation format for first-time learners. In this particular example, we no longer include the page number as this idea is already a paraphrased idea taken from the original source material. In a nutshell, as researchers, it is necessary that we are able to give due recognition to the sources of information that we use. This not only reflects our professionalism in terms of academic writing, but also shows how we value the intellectual property of other people. Also, using citations also helps readers of our research to verify any possible information that we include in our study.